gospel doesn't simply compel us to confront culture. It causes conflict with culture. It stands in direct opposition to culture. It was written by David Platt. The gospel stands in direct opposition to culture. We're going to look at Romans chapter 1 tonight. And you can go ahead and get there. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, I wanted to start with that. The gospel stands in direct opposition to culture. Do you agree with that, and how? Is that true? Okay, I'm getting a yes, a bunch of yeses. The gospel stands in direct opposition to culture. How is that and why? Why is that the case?
All cultures promote sin in one direction or another.
Okay. Culture promotes sin. All cultures promote sin in one direction or another.
Well, government is restraint, and government is from God. So in a way, it works both ways. People by nature are sinners, so there will always be a force.
People by nature are sinners, so there will always be a force.
But God put all government in place to restrain evil. So it works both ways.
Saying that God puts all government in place to restrain people, so it works both ways. What's sharing? Michael.
But government can be less than godly, yeah.
Sure, there can be corruption with government.
Corruption, that's the word I was
And it
looking
can-
for. Thank you.
And it can lead the
I'm
people.
not saying that ours is. I like
I'm not saying that ours is.
But there have been elements.
Correct.
The gospel says that we belong to someone else, and we don't have the ability to save ourselves. And
Right.
everything else that God put in our culture is all about me.
Yeah.
What she said?
What, say that again for me, and I'll restate it.
The gospel says that we belong to someone else. We were created by someone else, and we have no ability to save ourselves.
Yeah, the gospel states that we belong to something else. We have no ability to save ourselves. And that stands in opposition to culture because culture, people want to stand on their own. And want that, I don't need something else. I don't need God, and I don't need to be saved.
So you could also say the government will rest upon his shoulders. So there really aren't going to be shoulders that will do a perfect job until that time. Like even Solomon, that was the wisest king, left a broken government. Like it's like the world will not be perfect. The one who the government will rest upon.
Then the world will not be perfect until the one that the government rests upon his shoulders will become a kingdom. Culture stands in opposition to the gospel because people want to be self-sufficient. You know, everybody wants to be able to claim they don't need a higher power or something else. And what the gospel says is it calls for a humbling of ourselves. We must fall on our knees and on our faces and say, I need God, and outside of Him, I'm not good enough. I'm unable, I'm imperfect. And culture is prideful. Well, let's look at this passage together. Romans chapter 1. We'll look at 11 through 17. With this tonight, what we'll be talking about is obligation and pride. I just want to create that again for you, the purpose, obligation, and pride. And where I'm getting at is that is what the Apostle Paul outlines to the church at Rome as he writes it. Look at this together. It says, starting verse 11 of Romans chapter 1, it says, I long to see you so that I may impart to you some spiritual gift to make you strong. He's giving his aim or his purpose in this. It says, that is, that you and I may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith. Talking about encouragement. I do not want you to be unaware, brothers and sisters, that I've planned many times to come to you. He's talking about how he wanted to come and wasn't able to come visit him. That I planned many times to come to you, but you have been prevented from doing so until now, in order that I might have a harvest among you, just as I have had among the other Gentiles. Obligation. I am obligated both to Greeks and non-Greeks, both to the wise and the foolish. That is why I'm so eager to preach the gospel also to you who are in Rome. For, you know this one, I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God to bring salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jew and then to the Gentile. For in the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed, a righteousness that is by faith from first to last, just as it is written, the righteous will live by faith. And this righteousness that this is talking about comes from God. We don't have righteousness. And it comes by faith, because outside of faith, there is no righteousness. We have faith in one who is righteous. He's based on Jesus, and he is our righteousness. That's what it's talking about here at the end. What we have here is purpose, obligation, and pride. Paul's aim, his purpose, two things: to encourage. His purpose is to have a harvest. To encourage, I long to see you so that I may impart to you some spiritual gift to make you strong. And it says, that is, that you and I may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith. He wants to impart some spiritual gift. He wants to go encourage. That they be encouraged spiritually, and that they may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith. You know, it's really strong here. The Apostle Paul was called by God. He went on these missionary journeys. And he went and encouraged churches and wrote more than half of the New Testament under the leadership of our Lord. That he would say here that these lay people in the church in Rome could also encourage him. Of course they could, right? Christians, we believe we can be mutually encouraged by each other. We need each other. So I want to start there with the idea of encouragement. What role does encouragement, our encouragement of one another, play in our ability to be counterculture? What role does encouragement? The Apostle Paul is writing to these people. This is a small group of people in the church in a large city. Expression of faith, talking about how he felt like they could be encouragers of one another. What role does encouragement play in our ability to be countercultural? Yes.
Well, encourage is, there's courage in that word, and encourage gives us courage.
Oh, man, encouragement gives us courage. Awesome. Absolutely right.
Seeing a person as a new creation.
Okay? Seeing a person as a new creation.
God can call light out of darkness, so that, you can see him working.
God can call light out of darkness, and you can see him working with somebody. Yes.
Encouragement is restorative. You're out there fighting against the culture, and they're wearing you down, they're draining your energy, and encouragement restores and re-energizes.
Encouragement restores and re-energizes, especially when you're out of a culture. And this culture in Rome, I mean, Rome was the center of the world. And the culture would have been so overpowering. So overpowering. Especially, this is not a large First Baptist church in the middle of the room. This was a small group that's trying to come together and be expressed in the faith. They would have been, oh, I like culture. They would have been called out by culture. And they were going to need to be able to lift each other up and build each other up. Have you ever been overpowered by something or been in a situation where you were with someone that had a domineering personality and you didn't know how to respond and it just seemed like you were overtaken? Culture can be like that. Well, certainly. All right, let me ask this. Have you ever had a time that you were down and that you were discouraged and the discouragement was taking you away from the Lord's work in ministry and someone encouraged you and it turned the whole thing around? Anybody have an example? Anybody ever been encouraged?
This was a long time ago, and most of y'all know my daughter Maddie, she's the one at UT, Gulfport, or whatever, that's where my mother is. And, anyway, had visited, we'd gone back home to visit, and we were in the Steinmark parking lot. It had 6 inches of snow on the ground in Fort Smith, Arkansas. And so I had been charged with going to get the car. The other females in my family didn't want to walk in the cold. And so Maddie went with me, and we were walking across the parking lot, and I looked at her, and she always had that smile on her face, and I looked at her and I said, "Sweetie, why are you so happy?" And she looked at me and pulled me down where I was looking her right in the eye, and she goes, "Why wouldn't I be?" And it truly gave me a whole new perspective on life. That was a life-changing moment